Hey guys, it's Caban here with True Champion Gaming, and today we've got a very excited list to show you. It is an undefeated Fire, Sylvie, Allen, Erupting. Don't really know exactly what to call the deck, but let's just get right into it. It went 4-0 in the Yeti Gaming tournament that just happened, so undefeated. I think I only lost one game out of the best of 3 matches, so pretty solid standings, especially for Sylvie. I think it was around a 24-person event. We'll update that in the description if I'm wrong, but I mean, I'm fairly certain that's the biggest event that Sylvie has gone undefeated in. So really exciting stuff. Let's get right into the list. So Spirit of Fire, obviously, because it is Fire Sylvie. And then we are running Sylvie and Allen. So when I first built this deck a while ago, it was more of like a Sylvie ally beats kind of list. Didn't even run the level 2 Allen. I just ran the level 1 Sylvie. And then I also built a more like Allen Erupting, pure, like focused on that strategy kind of list. And then neither one of them did too well. They both had some pretty glaring weaknesses, but their weaknesses were kind of opposite of each other, so I just decided to combine the list. So most of my games I did win as just level 1 Sylvie with a bunch of allies on board and just going aggro. But the nice thing is that you do have the Allen here if you kind of need to be a little bit versatile, or if you just have the correct hand, you can just pump up some really big numbers with Erupting Rhapsody. So, but yeah, don't be afraid to just stay at the level 1 Sylvie. I'm going to start off with the one card that I'm a little uncertain of, and that is Smoke Bombs. I think this card's really good by itself, but and there were some good reasons to play it in this deck, but it is kind of a little lackluster. I would say that this is the 12th card of the material deck. If you want to swap it out, you could. A card that is definitely pretty necessary that you'll see in Erupting list no matter what leader you are, because in the Yeti Gaming tournament last night, there was Erupting Allen, which was me, Erupting Rye, which I played in the last round, so they went 3-1, and I believe an Erupting Lorraine also went undefeated because they don't do like a first place, they just do 4 rounds total, no matter how many people they have. So, I mean, Erupting is definitely getting there, and this is a very good card for Erupting because it can give you a free Ember Song or a free Erupting Rhapsody and help you if you're low on resources. We have a Flute, which is really nice for Tamer. So this is a class bonus. Other Erupting decks can't do this, but you can banish this and go into Erupting Rhapsody and not have to play a, something like an Ember Song or something. So this can be really nice. It does also give you +1 level. So if you have like an extra floating memory in your graveyard and you don't really know what to do with it, this is a really solid option to go into and, use it so that you can attack with your Pride mechanics. And then when you need to, or if you need to, banish it and go into your Erupting Rhapsody. We have Ears. Every Tamer deck ever is going to play this card. We have Sword of Seeking. Actually, I'm going to go over that one later. We have Crystal of Empowerment. This is usually just for an Erupting turn if you need a little bit more damage, but you can use this with Blazing Direwolf if you have like the proper board. So don't sleep on this card to just get a single turn of blazing attacks in when you normally couldn't, because Blazing Direwolf is 6 damage if you're attacking with it. It's 4 and then its effect deals 2 more. So this can basically read deal 6 or deal 2 extra if you're going for like an Erupting Rhapsody turn. Ring, I really wish I could play like 2 of these in this deck in particular. Usually, Ring is like, a lot of people will use it in a game, sometimes you don't. In this deck, man, I wish I had like 2 to 3 copies. It's so crucial. I will go Ring pretty much every game. And then a really big reason as to why I was like excited to play this deck are these 2 cards right here. So Safeguard Amulet is a card that pretty much everyone uses against other, like Rye decks and stuff. But Boots is a fantastic card. This is Safeguard Amulet just times 10. You can banish it if you control an animal or beast to give your champion Spell Shroud. So if you do this in their materialization phase, they can't this literally gives you a free turn against Rye decks or any decks that's going to do mostly like spell damage as a win con. So even against like Luxem Xander, this could be helpful and give you a turn. This is an absolutely insane card, and not too many Rye decks at the moment are focused on killing allies. So even if, like you're playing your your beast and they're trying to kill them off, hopefully you can probably live with one long enough to banish the boots. So this literally just gives you a free turn against those decks. It's really phenomenal. And then Sword of Seeking is kind of an odd choice to run in a Sylvie deck, but it's kind of a little tech that I have that people don't see coming. Because I'm going to spoil 2 cards from the main deck. I do run 2 Blazing Throw, and we actually talked about this in my bad aggro Sylvie deck that we uploaded recently. That was definitely more of a for fun deck, and that was the ally based level 1 Sylvie kind of build, and this was a thing that we ran in here too. And it's just a really good little combo, because since this is in your material deck, it's not really like a combo piece that you have to draw. So honestly, if you see just a Blazing Throw in your hand, you have this combo online, which is really nice. And then you bring out Sword, you attack for 1 because your champion's never going to attack, so you're going to be awake, and you deal 1 damage there, and then you play the Blazing Throw and you deal 5 damage total that turn, and it can really sneak up and do some lethal damage. I did win some games with this combo that I probably would not have won otherwise. So absolutely essential combo. Really, really love this, and I think that can be fit into more decks than just this. Big fan of that combo. So let's talk about the actual deck itself. So your good turn 1 plays are putting down one of these if you think it'll survive. So Blazing Direwolf and Fervent Beastmaster. This is really good to have on board so that your young Beast Bonders are online. And then you have the Fervent Beastmasters, which is a little less optimal of a play. It's just a 3/3, so it can die a little bit easier. But these are like pretty decent bodies to just stick on turn 1 if you're going first, and just try to like start building up your board and applying some pressure and stuff. So Blazing Direwolf, you're not always going to attack with this, honestly. You know, the game, you really have to balance between when to turn on those extra levels and not. If you start with a Direwolf and it is like surviving into the mid game, you're probably going to want to go Alan just so that you can start attacking with this, because this is 6 damage. But it's very situational on how you handle your levels and your win condition. So then we have 4 Energetic Beast Bonder. This is also an okay turn 1 play. It's a 2/2 with Floating Memory. It's basically Flame Rune Swordsman, just cost 1 more, and then it does have an effect that you can get a level if you control an animal or beast ally. So I did frequently go into, you know, like Sylvie level 1 or something like that, play a Grey Wolf, buff it, and then do like an Energetic Beast Bonder. That's more of like if you're going second play, because you need the card draw, since this is a 4 and the Grey Wolf is a 2. But and then that way you can swing with your wolf right away, and you're doing 3 with the wolf and 2 with the Beast Bonder for 5 damage. So you can use it, but most of the time you're going to be discarding it for that Floating Memory. Then we have 4 Gildas. Don't play this. This was due to me creating the deck kind of in a rush and not realizing that I didn't have a really easy way to turn this on. I've played Gildas. I absolutely love Gildas. I've played this in a lot of aggro decks, but it just doesn't fit in here. I was able to balance it occasionally, but there was even one game where I had literally played 2 Gildas and Cremation Ritual, both of them, because they were just attacking for 1 and I needed to see other cards instead. It's a norm element, which is going against your strategy as well. You want to try to play as little non-fire cards as possible, so don't play this. I'll talk about what cards you could swap for this, or swap those out for. 4 Grey Wolf and 4 Embertail Squirrel. You run a fairly small animal package. You just have the 4 Beast Dire Wolves, and then the 4 Beast Grey Wolves, and then the 4 Animal Embertail Squirrels. The beast count is higher and more important to have a higher count of. Embertail Squirrel works really well in this deck because it's basically a 2-cost 4 attack. It's just, if I get like 2 of these in my hand, you can really rush on someone fast. You're going to very quickly lose the cards in your hand, but you have ways to win with like only 2 or 3 cards in your hand. So it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, man, you can start to really apply some pressure with Embertail Squirrel. And I actually really like playing this with the Sylvie level 1 buff, because then it puts it at 2 health, which is going to help it survive against the 1 attack cards that your opponent might play, like Dungeon Guide or like a Lorraine level 1 with a sword and stuff like that. So just really good cards there. Then we have 4 Young Beast Bonders. So this is a fantastic target for Cremation Ritual, because often people will just leave this on your board because they're not too scared about a 1/1. They're going to have like other things on your board to clear anyways, and they don't want to put the Floating Memory in your drop. But yeah, I mean, like playing Blazing Direwolf turn 1 and then going into like Young Beast Spawner and making it a 6/6 so that it's really going to stay on board. And then when you do finally get to attack with it, you're going to be attacking with 8. It's just insane. You can use this on wolves as well. I at least 2, maybe 3 times would go Sylvie level 1, play a Grey Wolf, give it the buff counter from Sylvie, make it a 3/3, and then go Young Beast Spawner. And now all of a sudden I have a wolf that's 5/5. Like that's insane, honestly. So absolutely fantastic card. I really, 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 really like this card. And then we have 4 Hasty Messenger and 4 Creative Shock. So this is kind of like standard for fire decks, but I've definitely built Sylvie decks like without this kind of stuff because it feels a little too slow. But since our secondary win condition is Erupting, this is a really, really phenomenal engine to have in here and can be your turn 1. Like if you go second and you can attack with a Hasty Messenger, you know, I definitely had some turns where I just like played Hasty, played Creative Shock, and just like started to filter through and like kind of played more of an Erupting Rye kind of style deck. So this is just some of your filter to try to get that win con online and draw into your good cards and stuff. Get floating memory in the drop because you really, really don't want to be paying any memory cost from your board. Maybe to go into like a Sylvie level 1 if you really need to. But outside of that, I really would try to not pay any memory cost outside of floating memory just because you really don't have that luxury. These are just, you know, red floating memory cards to discard with stuff. I do have 4 Increasing Danger in here. I still am not a huge fan of this card, but, you know, you're trying to go fast and this goes fast. So it's a little bit of a necessary evil. And then we have 4 Cremation Ritual. You don't want to sacrifice your own allies as often as other red decks. You know, like a lot of red decks do run 3 or 4 Cremation Ritual. They're in here just because I want to see them when I want to see them, but you could even cut this card down if there's other cards that you want to see, because really the only fantastic card to Cremation Ritual is Young Beast Spawner. Outside of that, you could do it with your other Beast Spawner that has floating memory, but you don't really want to be giving up your tempo of swinging into your opponent because you really want all the damage on the board. So I don't know. It's a tricky card to use. I would say always err on the side of caution of not using these. I'll frequently discard them with things like Creative Shock or Hasty Messenger and stuff. And then we have the 4 Ember Song and 4 Erupting Rhapsody cores. So this is how you turn on your secondary win condition of Erupting Rhapsody. You can get pretty high levels. I was erupting people for like 10 and stuff like that, which is like not as high as Erupting Rye, but when you're factoring in that I've already probably hit them for 8, 10, 12, something like that with allies, it can be a pretty fast lethal turn. So you go Ember Song to turn on the melody for the harmony, and then you go Erupting Rhapsody, banish a bunch of fire element cards to gain levels, and then you deal damage for that as long as you've done the Ember Song. You can also use that flute that we talked about in the material deck to turn one of these online as well, which is one of the ways that you can win with a really small amount of cards in your hand. If you only have Erupting Rhapsody and 2 other cards, or even 1 other because you'll draw for turn, you can just go into like use floating memory, go into the flute, banish flute, play Erupting Rhapsody, banish a bunch of cards from your graveyard, and maybe deal like 10 damage with a 3-card hand, which I did do in the tournament. So really good move there. And then you can also do, if you have Ember Song, the Channeling Stone and go like Ember Song for free and then do an Erupting Rhapsody after that. So there's a lot of ways to like kind of like cheat this out and get a win when you didn't think you could. Like my last round opponent, it was so funny playing against him because we were both on Erupting. We both were just sitting there like only have taken a small amount of damage, just thinking like, can my opponent kill me next turn? You know, like you can really just crank out that damage out of nowhere a little faster than things like Arcane Rye can. Even though they can deal more damage, they're not as quick about it. And then we have 2 Spurn to Ash, and then also of course the 2 Blazing Throw that I talked about before. So this is a card that I would probably make a 4 of and take out 2 of the Gildas. So you're not completely reliant on the Erupting Rhapsody, so you don't need the Spurn to Ash to kill the Nullifying Lantern. But, you know, I did win a fair amount of games with Erupting. It is one of your win cons, so there's not really a harm to playing more copies of this. You know, you want more fire cards to be discarding anyways, so I think making this a 4 of and then sideboarding out into, you know, your deflecting edges and stuff that are in the sideboard is a really solid option. I would play 2 more of these, maybe 1 more Blazing Throw, and then just like kind of maybe a tech that you want or something instead of the Gildas, because yeah, they were a little rough. I would say Blitz Mage is also another viable option, just because I did find myself with like 3-card hands fairly often, actually. So just doing like a 3 damage Blitz Mage play would be a pretty solid option there. So I forgot to bring my side deck with me, but basically it was just 2 Spurn to Ashes, 4 Deflecting Edge, and 1 Sparklight. If I would take out the Gildas and put in the Spurns in the main deck, I would have 4 Deflecting and probably 3 Sparklight in the sideboard. The Sparklight's pretty important for when you are playing against a water deck with a water barrier, or Arcane, Rye, and stuff like that. There's just some reasons to have that extra little damage there, especially the unpreventable stuff. You could even do Varuk as well, but I just feel like you don't really have the resources to play Varuk. I would rather probably do Sparklight. So that's the deck though. Really happy that we are seeing some play with Sylvie, and the new rule changes are actually making a lot more decks viable. Slowing down that Lorraine even 1 turn does matter quite a lot, because beforehand, when I would try to play ally-based decks, they just go, even if they don't draw sweep, they kill something off with their Lorraine level 2, they dungeon guide, and then they kill something off with Lorraine level 3, and now they've removed 2 things from your board and drawn 2 cards. Now with the change, they kill something off, draw a card, and then they go into their level 3 and they can't kill the other one, at least with the Lorraine. So now you're keeping 1 more ally on board and depriving them of 1 card draw. That is a very significant change, and does help. Matchup wise, I played against a Water Xander, Water Lorraine, Fire Erupting Rye, and can't remember the 4th one, but it does have a pretty decent spread. I really like the spell-based damage matchup with the boots, and hopefully this does catch some traction and we see a little bit more variety than just Fire and Win the Rain. Until next game, guys, we'll try to keep bringing you all the spicy lists like today. Peace.